In order to understand, the strategic decision making and connection of strategic decision making with technology forecasting, okay, we need first of all to understand what is strategy, what is decision, and how we can reinforce these activities with the help of technology forecasting.
Absolutely.
But let us start with a simple question. For instance, most of you already dealt with such a question. Um, what kind of education stream to follow in order to have successful career and in order to succeed in your life, in your own life? Okay, and for instance, if you need to decide about engineering career or scientific stream, or to follow probably commerce stream or arts or military even, or management, in fact, one day you decide, one day you take this decision, and after that all your education will follow this track. And at the end, this decision that you made, which stream you're going to follow, will have impact in on your entire life. And this is exactly what we name strategic decision. Usually, if we look from point of view of planning, the strategic decision, for instance, for your education, is kind of can be divided by five years in order to cover all the education that you decided to follow. When the tactic level usually can be split by year, each year you can decide, for instance, in which business school to continue your education, or in which technical university to continue your education. You can decide about courses to follow in order to succeed, and you can decide. But this is not strategic level. This level depends, usually this level of planning depends on what you decided on the strategy level. And of course you have operational level, how to complete different semester, how many semesters you are going to complete, in which duration, in which time. This is exactly how our strategic decision impact to our planning. But what is a strategy if you try to make it in short? Okay, strategy can be defined as a general plan. As a general plan or set of plans intended to achieve something. It can be for the long period, but it can be dramatic changes. In body of our course, we are going to define strategy as a management plan for strengthening the performance and competitive advantages of the company. Because in fact, if you look to the term strategy, it can be defined as a plan or direction, a directed course of action to achieve an intended set of goals. Or it can be also defined as a pattern or consistent pattern of behavior with a strategy realized, for instance. Or strategy can be defined also as a position and so on. But just to keep in mind that in body of our course, we define a strategy as a management plan for strengthening the performance of company. For us, strategy term, usually this is plan. Okay, but before doing plan, we need to take decision. We need to decide about our strategy. And how do we make those decisions? How those decisions usually are prepared, and what are some peculiarity? Let us see an example which probably with kind of decision you already faced and you already tried to cope. Usually, whatever decision we are taking, it starts with the objective. First, we have to fix the objective, and according to the objective, we choose a criteria or factors which we are going to take into account to take decision. For instance, if your objective is personal mobility from place where you're living to place where you are going to follow your courses or to the library, personal mobility, you have several factors. Okay, you can have another set of factors. In my case, this is the social factors, how much does it cost, and ecological factors. And the number of factors can be more, but very often in your mind, they're even unconscious. You know, you like something and you don't like something, even without thinking about why it happens like that. And based on those factors, on those weights, you can choose one solution or another one. For instance, depending on the distance that you need to cover, depending on how much place your personal mobility device will occupy, and so on. So usually, when we take decision, we have several alternatives, and we need to choose one alternative out of several based on our factors. This is how it works. I tried just to make more detail look at the situation of decision. Very often we make decision even without thinking about these factors, because those factors are embedded into our culture or embedded to our mindset, embedded into our mind. But if you just look back, how did you decide, for instance, this morning to travel from one place to another place? You can see how you took those decisions. To take decision, it's not always as easy as it can look like. And one of the pitfalls that we have not to forget about, that most of our decisions, they are not rational. We strongly believe that all decisions that we are taking, they are rational, but the scientific research in this domain show clearly that it is not at all like that. In most of the cases, the decision that we take 50% rational, 50% irrational, but the higher impact of decision expected, the less formal approach is applied. So that's why, in order to take strategic decision to which the long-term changes depend, we very rare use the formal approach. We will look about difference of strategic decision, tactic and operational decision later on. But here I'd like just to emphasize that we need to revise our strong belief that we take decision rationally. What kind of working definition we are going to use in order to define decision? When you make a decision, you choose what should be done or which is best of various possible action. This is a very basic, very classical decision. In our case, we are going to use some shorter version. We will define in body of our course the decision as a choice between two or more options. Okay. Let's keep in mind that decision, usually this is a choice between two or more options using some criteria. Okay. If you just try to compare the different level of decisions, how strategic, tactical, and operational decisions are different, we can see that strategic decision, the area of strategic decision, they are mostly done in order to plan change and in order to plan risk, to define, for instance, design objective, to look to the external processes, to incorporate the pivotal changes to decide not only about technologies, but also organization and which kind of knowledge have to be acquired. When the area of tactical decision, this is mostly about resource management, like what kind of business school you are going to use in order to complete your education, what kind of other education institution you are going to use. This is more about resource management. When operational area of decision, this is how you are going to use these resources. Are you going to stay 2 semesters in the same school, or are you going to change within the 4 semesters? You are going to change different education institution. This is operational level. Which courses you are going to follow? If you look to the impact of decision, the strategic decision usually they provide long-term impact. Changes which follow the strategic decision, they are in the large in the scope. If you look to the level of decision making, usually the strategic decision making, those are done by top management and senior management. When the tactical decision, they are done by functional direction or middle management. If you look to the frequency, strategic decision, why it is not so easy to be done, because they are unique. If you compare just with operational decision, which are more or less predictable and frequent, and tactical decision, which are not frequent, but they are repeatable and they are still predictable. The strategic decision, they are very difficult to predict the consequences, and they are usually unique. We will see in the next slide one of the example of strategic decision, and in order to illustrate this. The strategic decision, for instance, if you look at some examples, we decide to enter it or to exit from the market. We decide introducing new manufacturing process or not introducing new manufacturing process. When the tactical decision, this is, for instance, like designing a marketing plan in order to support entrance to the market, or to develop a departmental budget when we decide to change the direction of this department. When operational decision can be like restock inventory or determine special offers, those are the operational decisions. In body of our course, we are mostly focusing about forecasting to support strategic decision. Okay, let me give you an example about strategic decision which was taken in 2005. IBM decided to sell their business, and Lenovo decided to buy the business of personal computers, in particularly the ThinkPad laptop. At those time was one of the very well recognized brand with very interesting market share. By the way, if you look to this strategic decision, why it was taken like that, the very often it happens that we don't know exactly in a time of strategic decision why the company decided to do this. But in this particular case, we can see that IBM, they had very well and very reliable forecast about market changes, and they decided to do so, because if you look what happens later on, probably we will see this case study together. This was a very right decision which allow company to change their strategic product, and in 2011 they showed to the potential investors the IBM Watson platform for cognitive computation. If I try to summarize about strategic decision making, of course we need to see the strategic decision making, it is a part of what? In fact, strategic decision making, this is a part of strategic management. When strategic management involves the formulation and implementation of the main goals and the main initiatives taken by company top managers on behalf of owners based on consideration of resources and assessment of internal and external environment in which the organization operates. The strategic decision making, this is a part of the process of strategic management. So that's why when we make such decision more educative way, when we make it less intuitive way, this helps us to reinforce the quality and to decrease the risks. If I just go back to the example of deal between IBM and Lenovo in 2005, in fact, in a time of agreement, Lenovo, they recognized result very positively. When later on it was reported that due to the changes on the market, they didn't benefit from this deal as it was planned at the beginning. Well, let us make a stop here.